Howdy, Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here for Water Tiger School Taijiquan. We're more or less in the Qigong side of the ledger. Let's start with the t-shirt then. World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, one world, one breath. This is the 2024 t-shirt. Didn't get one for 2025. This was actually a gift from a student. Thanks again, Mike. And it is the only one of the 17 World Tai Chi Day t-shirts that I own that I've only worn once. And it was relatively recently. It was like last year. Was it last year? Yeah, in August. So it hasn't even been a year yet. But since it was the only one I've only worn once, I thought I'd go ahead and do that. Today, I have to say again, is going to be about the breath. The reason that I say again is this is actually going to be the fourth video that we put together about the breath. Yes. Funny because we only thought there were two, and then suddenly we discovered a third one that we had forgotten about. However, all of those have been out there for a while. So a lot of you probably haven't gone back and found them. And this will contain different parts of what those videos had hit on topic-wise, but also things that we haven't yet addressed. So we feel quite justified in doing a fourth video on the breath. Plus, I don't know if you know this, but breathing's important. We can't talk about the breath without quoting Kwai Chang Caine. I think it was from the Reboot series, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, that Caine was given this line: I stay alive two ways. I breathe and I learn. So, since it's about the breath, not really anything to do to warm up, but I am going to give a caveat to today. I don't think in any of we're pushing 200 videos at this point over the last 5 years since we started in March, the year the world stopped for a while. Anyway, in any of those videos, I don't think I've mentioned that I have some breathing issues. I was diagnosed a few years ago with, I don't normally plug this word in front of it, but it's idiopathic paradoxical diaphragmatic paralysis. What that means, the idiopathic means they can't figure out why I have it. Usually it's only two causes: an infection or open heart surgery. I've had no infection on the inside of my body. And I haven't had open heart surgery. I think I would remember that. But diaphragmatic paralysis, paradoxical, means that when one diaphragm goes down the way it's supposed to, the other one rises up. When the diaphragm that's supposed to come up comes up, the one that isn't functioning right goes down. So that's why every once in a while you hear me on a regular basis in the videos, maybe a little short breath, and it might come up today since we're focusing on the breath. This will be a little bit more hands-on than any of the earlier videos. The third one was a little bit more hands-on than the first two. The first two were in the lecture series, by the way. The 5 root goals and the introduction to that playlist. We talk about the breath for a while, and then we talk about the breath on Shyi, which is regulating the breath. I find it interesting. Shyi, very close to Qi, isn't it? And then the third video we did a while later, and that was about the breath, which was actually what we were going to title this until we found the old video. So all those are listed down there if you want to go back and see similarities and differences between what we address in the videos. So there's all the caveats. I'm already going to get a drink. I'm going to finish my mint. And we'll start breathing. Hopefully you're breathing before. Oddly, something that I usually talk about all the time when I talk about breath. It's very much a part of Water Tiger when it comes to talking about the breath. I was at an event earlier this year here on Long Island, and a fellow instructor Bill Donnelly. I've known Bill for years. He's participated in our World Tai Chi and Qigong days for quite a while. We meant to check on the dates, but on and off for most of the 24 years that we were doing World Tai Chi Day. Water Tiger School was on Long Island, and he was back this year in the spring. But anyway, it was a Chinese New Year celebration, and I have to catch a bit of his workshop. And there are these two things that we talk about all the time when we talk about breath. Actually, kind of three. One is, of course, the breath is important. That's not really part of what I want to say. Is that in traditional Chinese medicine, in Qigong and Tai Chi circles, you'll hear when we first start to breathe, or when we're first born, we breathe from here. Get a little bit older, we breathe from here, like middle aged. Start to push the years a little bit, we breathe from here. Then up, old age, throat. And now notice the pattern. The reason I mentioned Bill, he's an author, by the way. I have the title of his book somewhere in my cue cards. Inner Secrets, Discovering Tai Chi's Hidden Lessons on Preservation, Protection, and Peace of Mind. You might want to check it out. Not that I'm hawking his book. I actually haven't read it yet. But anyway, Bill's a great guy. I went to his, and I kind of was over, listening to his workshop. I heard those almost exact words. And I also heard the first thing we do when we're born is we inhale. Last thing we do when we die is exhale. Breath bookends life. So there you go. The other thing that I heard, they say two, so maybe three things. The Chinese, or in traditional Chinese medicine and Qigong, refer to deep breathing, where the belly and the low back maybe is expanding and compressing more than the chest and the upper back. Those deep breathing, that deep breathing is swimming in the depths of the ocean. For those who have a shallow breath, where the chest and maybe upper back is expanding and compressing more than the belly and the low back, that's wading in the shallows. Why would you want to wade in the shallows when you have all that beauty in the depths of the ocean? So it was just interesting because almost verbatim, not quite the pattern that I just used, to what I usually say and how I usually say it, was coming from Bill. So as much as we're different, we're the same. So why is deep breath important? Well, benefits from breathing diaphragmatically include just the fact that it massages the stomach and the intestines simply by breathing deeper. With the belly, and you might want to put your hand on your belly. Might even want to stand up. You might want to sit down. Sometimes we talk about how sometimes if you lie down or sit down, then it might be easier because certain muscles are engaged when we're standing up. And feel that belly move more than the chest. Sometimes, a lot of times in classes where I haven't talked about the breath before, I'll tell everybody, all take a really deep breath, and they take a deep breath. And about half the class, you see the shoulders come up and maybe back. You see the chest puff out. It's like, no, that's breathing in the shallows. You want to get to the breath here. And we'll talk about that. We'll do some exercises with the hands in different positions to feel what's expanding and compressing here as we keep going. It helps when you're breathing deeply to let go of stress and let go of strong emotions. Read an essay years ago that included the thought, the idea, the presentation, the theory that if you're breathing deeply, if the belly is moving more than the chest, it's impossible to hold on to strong emotions. Now, through trial and error, I have found that most of the time, I found that this is true. Not most of the time, that it's true. As a matter of fact, I put a little sticker in the center of my steering wheel to remind me while I'm driving on Long Island, that's challenging to one's ability to let go of strong emotions, to remind me to breathe. And sometimes I forget it's there. So sometimes my face might get a little bit red when I'm behind the steering wheel. But when I remember, when I see the sticker, when I remember, that goes away, the frustration, the anger. So anyway, that's the importance of a deep breath. I might throw some other health benefits at you as we keep going here. But the first thing then I want to talk about is you put your hand over your mouth for a while so you can feel, if you don't normally breathe through the nose or you do a combination, what a true nasal breath feels like. There are different opinions as to breathing nasally. Some folks will say that you should inhale through your nose and then exhale through your mouth because you don't want to, you're exhaling, internal poisons, and you don't want to have them caught in the nasal passage. Yeah, I have a different opinion. The nose does act as a filter, and when you inhale, so that's important, especially these days. Air quality is pretty crappy out there, and not a lot you can do about ozone gases. And you really, maybe if you need to, and the air quality is really bad, wear a mask. But the nose does help filter out some of that. Pollen, larger particles, that sort of thing. The nose, nasal breath, adds moisture to the air. So it helps to prevent dryness in the lungs and bronchial tubes. That too is important. Releases, I always get this wrong. I always say nitric acid. And it's not, it's nitric oxide. Nitric acid would be bad. NO is an element, shall we say, that helps to widen your blood vessels. So your blood can be better oxygenated. So nutrient-rich blood is really important for the health of your organs and their functions and that sort of thing. Nose breathing adds resistance to the breath, which is good in a couple of different ways. One, that you have to work a little bit harder on the inhalation, and the exhalation helps keep your lungs with elasticity. They are more flexible. Hence, again, more oxygen for the blood. Because the nostrils are smaller than the mouth, air exhaled through the nose creates a backflow. And that allows us to actually absorb more oxygen as we're exhaling. So we're not only absorbing oxygen when we're inhaling, we're also absorbing it as we're exhaling. And if we breathe through the mouth, that doesn't happen. So again, important. I'm going to get another drink. A couple more things about nasal breath. It helps balances the pH in the body. Who knew? The nasal mucosa, I think I'm pronouncing that right. The nasal mucosa helps to establish a breath pattern. It actually will help you set any changes to your breath pattern. So for instance, if you're changing, shall we say, the logistics of your breath, getting your breath from your chest to your belly, the nasal mucosa through the nasal breath will help you reset that. Usually, I can't remember what the word is, but it works on its own. And finally, the hypothalamus is stimulated. And that helps with all sorts of those other sort of self-fulfilling, I guess, functions. Heartbeat, blood pressure, sleep pattern, all those things are positively impacted by a nasal breath. So hopefully through the nose. That being said, and this will come up again, just breathe. If nothing else, just breathe. That's normally what we tell any beginning student in our Taichi and Qigong classes. Maybe some exceptions to depending upon the kind of Qigong we're doing. That just breathe. Don't get all caught up in where the breath should be or what should be expanding and compressing to begin with. You got a lot going on to start with. So there you go. Nasal breath is important. Now, about what should be expanding and compressing. If you haven't already, as we've been talking, one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. Now, FYI, there are going to be a lot of references that were kind of rooted a little bit in Ken Cohen's The Way of Qigong. I just want to give Mr. Cohen some credit for pointing us in the right direction. At Black Dragon School, where I started, we talked about two different breaths. At Black Dragon School, it was Buddhist, which is on the inhalation, diaphragm's moving down, unless you have a diaphragm issue, and the belly pushes out. So the belly sort of goes with the diaphragm down, belly out. Inhalation, belly in, as the diaphragm comes up. Someone would call this, for instance, Mr. Cohen, natural breath. And by the way, Buddhist breath, notice, nice little subtle Buddha belly there, because the belly is expanding on the inhalation. The second way of breathing at Black Dragon School was Taoist breath. By the way, the Buddhist breath or the belly expanding is usually paralleled with doing Qigong and Tai Chi for health purposes. On the inhalation in Taoist breath, the belly moves in. So the diaphragm presses down, but the belly actually compresses. And then on the exhale, I'm exhaling, the belly expands. So on the inhale, compressing. On the exhale, expanding. And notice this hand isn't really moving. Yes, I looked at the monitor to make sure I could say that. Some would say the Buddhist breath also establishes a good breathing habits and overall health, as I mentioned. The Taoist breath, some would call reverse breathing. We actually called it natural breath at Black Dragon School because when babies are first born, they breathe abdominally apparently in that way. So we were told. That might not be medically correct. Next time I have a doctor in the program, I'll ask. Which may be a while, by the way, just a little aside. We lost our studio location at the end of May. We've always relied on the kindness of others and other styles, not styles of Tai Chi, but other martial arts to kind of house us. We always had joint responsibility. We paid rent for time and space at another martial arts studio, and the one that we were recently affiliated with suddenly went out of business. So we're looking for a new space. So I don't know when I might have another doctor in my program. I'm still doing public classes. So anyway, that's the first. We're going to go through 7. We'll come back to that version of the Taoist breath and talk about that in a little bit more detail in some different versions. The next one doesn't necessarily mean that only the belly is expanding and not the chest. Differentiated breathing. This is the one in public classes, and in the studio for that matter, that kind of gets me in trouble. And by the way, if I look clearer than before, this is a new camera. If you've been following us for a while, you may remember that back toward the end of 2024, we stopped posting things for a while because we were having camera laptop issues. They weren't communicating well. So we started borrowing a camera from our host program whenever we wanted to shoot a video to upload. So we finally replaced our camera because we had to. Differentiated breathing is everything. It's all possibilities on the inhalation. It's all possibilities on the exhalation. And that could be simply, maybe place both hands on both sides. Maybe keeping it in nasal breath and seeing if you can feel more of an expansion by activating the left diaphragm more than I just switched, right diaphragm. I don't know if you can see that or not. Maybe on one breath it's the left. On the other breath it's the right. And right now, I'm breathing solely through my nose and not thinking about the nostrils. So explore this. Forget about one side or the other down here, starting more simply. See if you can manipulate and feel like more of the breath, probably still some will come in through the right. You may not, you might be able to completely shut it down. But fill the lungs primarily through the left nostril and exhale primarily through the right nostril. So all those different possibilities. Inhale and through the mouth and expand the chest. Exhale through the nose. This is an interesting one too that I like. This came up, I think it was late in the year in 2020 during beta for Tony Horton's Power of 4 workout in a yoga session. Fill the belly first. So, gonna exhale. Fill the belly. And then fill the chest. And then release the chest. And then empty the belly. Fill the belly. And then the chest. Empty the chest. Empty the belly. And I'm doing the Buddhist breath here too, by the way. I'm inhaling, expanding the belly a little bit. Inhaling, expanding the chest a little bit. Exhale, sinking the chest. Exhale, sinking the belly. That's sometimes referred to as an ocean breath. That one works better when you're lying down. So those are just a few examples of differentiated breathing. And it's about controlled breath. It's about expanding your awareness of your breathing. Some might say or theorize that it's also a freeing of inhibitions. Not exactly sure if that's true, but it's just fun to explore how much control you can have over things that are usually autonomous, that just happen on their own. So the next breath, so we've had, although we've talked about more than this, going down the list of 7, we've talked about natural breath or Buddhist breath. We've talked about now differentiated. The third, from Water Tiger's perspective, is Taoist, or in some instances, some people would refer to this one as natural breath. Cohen would call it, Mr. Cohen would call it reverse breathing. And others call it reverse breathing as well. And that's the one where on the inhalation, the belly compresses. On the exhalation, it expands. Again, the chest is still, but you can see, maybe, because I can see, on the exhale, my right hand on my belly moves out. On the inhalation, my right hand on my belly moves in. Funny story about this. Had a student in a public class, and honestly, I can't remember. I think it was an MRI. It may have been a CT or a CAT scan, but I think it was an MRI. And the med tech kept telling her to breathe deeply. She'd been in class for a while, so to her, a deep breath was all belly oriented. Maybe not natural, maybe not, or maybe the belly was expanding on the inhalation and compressing on the exhalation. Maybe it was reversed, but it was all belly driven. And the med tech kept saying, no, I want you to breathe deeply. And Gail was her name. Gail would say, I am breathing deeply. No, your belly's moving in and out. I want your chest. I want your breath to be in your chest. Your belly moving is interfering with the scan. That's all I'll say about that. So anyway, the reverse breathing thing, the belly moving in and out just made me think about that. Now, oddly enough, number 4 on our list is kidney breath. The reverse breathing or the Taoist breath with the abdomen compressing on the inhalation and expanding on the exhalation helps to energize, strengthen the diaphragm, and really focus yourself into your dantian. Kidney breath is when the abdomen contracts, as it has been, and the lower back expands. Now, to me, that happens generally, probably. It does for me, because I remember when I first came across this separation of those two between the Taoist breath and the kidney breath, that I already felt on my inhalation when my belly expands. Maybe I'll do it this way. It's very slight, but my when my belly compresses, my low back expands somewhat. And when my belly expands, my low back compresses. And that's considered kidney breath in some circles. It really stimulates the Shenyu cavity, the essence door, the kind of whole vessel back here, esoteric vessel of kidney energy in the low back. And then that leads us to embryonic. So just seeing where we are in the list, we have the Buddhist breath or natural breath. We have differentiated breathing. We have the Taoist breath or natural breath or reverse breathing. We have the kidney breath. Now there is, what's next? Is it embryonic? Yes, embryonic breath. Embryonic is the same as what we were just doing, but minimal movement. And apparently, that is very spiritually rewarding. I was thinking there were 7. I guess there are only 6, right? Because we hit, sorry, we hit the Buddhist breath, the natural breath. We hit differentiated. We hit, I'm looking at my cue cards here. We hit Taoist. We hit kidney. We hit, I'm down there a while. Oh, I'm sorry. We did miss one. Dantian breath is what we skipped. And I then described the embryonic breath incorrectly. So, not going to cut. I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to apologize. Embryonic breath, or Taoist breath, not Taoist breath. Dantian breath. Dantian breath is when the abdomen and low back expand together. So we were doing kidney breath is the belly contracts, the low back expands. When the belly expands, the low back compresses. Dantian breath, which I mistook for what we were just doing, is both expand. So on the inhalation, I have a combination of the Buddhist breath in front and the kidney breath in back. So both the front and the back are expanding at the same time and then compressing at the same time. So on the inhale, this entire section expands out. And on the exhalation, the entire section compresses. That one is Dantian breath. And then embryonic breath is, as I described it, with less force, more subtly, in a more relaxed fashion. And that is what's supposed to trigger expanded awareness and spiritual bliss. The last, remember at the very beginning of this, I mentioned what we tell new folk is just breathe. That's number 7. So again, natural breath or Buddhist breath, differentiated breathing, Taoist breath, or what some people would refer to as reverse breathing, kidney breath, Dantian breath, embryonic breath, and the final is just breathe. Literally, just breathe. The method of no method. You might want to refer to that as Taoist breath because Taoism is all about natural action. Just enough, wu wei. So by implication, could be Taoist breath. But that's just breathe on the inhalation, just breathe on the exhalation. And it's just experience nature. Just experience breathing and not about how you're breathing. So those are the 7. Sorry that I got caught up in only having 6. There are also 6 qualities of the breath that we want to talk about. But before I mention the 6 qualities of the breath, I also want to mention a phrase from Cheng Ching. We use it a lot. Slow, long. No, sorry, that's I'm using. I'm actually using the 6 we're going to talk about. Long, fine, calm, and slow. Long, fine, calm, and slow. I have seen different orders, which is sometimes why I get the order confused. Long, fine, calm, and slow. Cheng Ching used those 4 words in a phrase together to refer to how we should breathe. Long, fine, calm, and slow. How we should move in our Tai Chi. Long, fine, calm, and slow. And how we should move the Qi through the body. Long, fine, calm, and slow. Think of, yes, you see me doing this. Weaving the breath, the blood, the Qi, and the movement as if reeling silk. So the 6 we borrowed from Mr. Cohen again. Slow. So maintain slow respiratory rate in an unhurried mood. Long, in that slowness, the breath is long, steady, is a long, steady stream of air. Deep. Breath and Qi sinking. Fine. Smooth and quiet instead of coarse and loud. We talk about that one a lot. Shouldn't hear your breath. The Water Tiger School, a lot of times in the last few years, we've come to call that ninja breath. If you can hear a ninja breathe, they're not a very good ninja. Even The breath should be even on the inhalation and the exhalation, from forward to back, from left to right, even. And the final point, tranquil. Mind focused on the present moment, not caught up in worry, thoughts, or anything except what is unfolding right now. Slow, long, deep, fine, even, and tranquil. By the way, SLEDFET. SLDFET. SLEDFET. Slow, long, deep, fine, even, and tranquil. So that brings us to the end, more or less. Almost there. Down below, we promise, a couple of breathing exercises. Deep, slow breathing exercises can help reduce stress by activating the body's relaxation system, right? It helps to slow the heart rate and reduces blood pressure and tension in the body. I mentioned earlier about, breathing deep and you can't hold on to strong emotions. I used to do this thing when this was just a part-time gig for me, when I was working in the corporate world. My last job was for a software company that was doing CSR support software. And I had a habit, because I'm kind of a prankster a little bit, and I use knowledge that I know to kind of play with people, I guess, a little bit, but also help them out, because I'd watch this and then I'd tell them what happened, so hopefully they learn. But somebody's having a really rough day in the office, and I'd say, okay, I'd go into their eye, I'd hear something was going on, I'd go and say, take a really deep breath, and I'll let it go, and just feel that release. And you could just watch, maybe a little bit of a smile would come to their face. And you just watch all that tension drain away. And then if I just stood there, you'd slowly see it all creep back in. And I'd point out, it's like, feel what's happening now. Keep breathing deeply, and that won't happen. So anyway, deep breathing exercises. So the first one, we're only going to do two. The first one, caveat at the beginning of the video, is a little bit difficult for me, so bear with me. It's called the 4-7-8 method. You inhale on a count of 4. You hold for a count of 7. And you exhale for a count of 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. One last time. 4, 7, 8. Gonna get a drink. That actually went better than I thought. The finger thing was just a momentary inspiration. Normally I count during that when I present it, which means I'm not really doing the breath exercise. So the second, a little bit easier if you have lower breath capacity, is called box breathing. It's a breathe in for 4 seconds, or for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, repeat. So it includes the hold after the exhalation. So that's a little tough sometimes. So box breathing, and you can simplify this, right? Power down. Do a count of 3 or 3 seconds between if 4 is too much. So I'm going to exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. 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 Inhale. Got ahead of myself. Hold. Exhale. Hold. One more. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. There you go. So 4, 7, 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale on 8. Box breathing. You know, if you want to challenge yourself more, if you've got a really good breath capacity, there would have been a day that I probably could have done that with a 5 count, maybe a 6. I doubt the 6, but could probably do it on a 5. Nah, I might be able to do a 6 back in the day. Not now. Inhale for 4, hold for 4. Whatever your number, whatever your count is, write down the low, write down the line. Same amount for the inhale as the hold, as the exhale, as the hold. So in box breathing, the basic exercise is set at a count of 4 for the inhale, a count of 4 for the hold, a count of 4 for the exhale, a count of 4 for the hold, and then recycle and do that for a while. There are just tons of deep breathing exercises out there. Those are 2. So by far, this is the longest of the breath videos. The 2 from the original lecture series on the 5 root goals of Tai Chi and Qigong are both maybe 7, 8 minutes long from beginning to end. The About the Breath video was, I think, 16, 17, 18 minutes long. So this is far more comprehensive on the breath because I stay alive 2 ways. I breathe and I learn. So we'll be back on the Tai Chi side of our ledger. Should be able to do it in 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is the July 4th holiday. But we should still probably get something prepared and shot and uploaded that week, I would think. We actually have a plan this time. It'll be a continuation, sort of what we did in the last one. It's another rocking exercise, if things go as planned. So though this was kind of, there's a lot of talking here, but hopefully you followed along with the hands and felt the different movements or that sort of thing. And if you didn't today, keep at it. The more you do, the better you get. So thanks for your time and attention as always. And as always, yes, we ask YouTube to allow us to preview comments, not because we want to weed out negative comments. They're welcome. Constructive criticism is welcome. Flaming is not. I'm sure somebody will probably post something about you talk too much on this video. And we also will post a link to this on our Facebook page, which is a little bit more free range, kind of the same thing there. You flame us there, and we won't be on our page very long. You can also, if you happen to be watching this on Long Island, you went, oh, maybe, you know, it sounds kind of interesting. Maybe you'd like to join this program. You can also find out on Facebook and our website if we actually have a studio program yet. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Keep breathing. Take care. Stay safe. And you'll catch us next time.